Steve Mignonti in rural Vermont doing another junkyard crawl with a 1964 Studebaker Wagonaire. What's a Wagonaire? Well, we'll get to that in a second. Something new for 64 was styling. A more squared off process shown here, whereas the 63s were rounded off and kind of antiquated. Although very successful cars, so too were these. This is a Lark, part of the Lark family, and these could have one of a couple different engines, a V8 or a 6. And this one has the... Okay, this is the 6-cylinder, 169 cubic inches, and I think it was called the Thunderbolt 6. Not much of a Thunderbolt going to happen here, maybe 110 horsepower there. Optional would have been 259 V8 or the 289 V8, which would have been a little peppier. Of course, dual circuit master cylinder was standard fare on Studebakers. Disc brakes are certainly possible on these things. Well, this probably has drums, almost certainly, but probably big 10-inch drums with flared hats on them for heat dissipation. Again, it's a wagon. Of course, you know, a nice radiator, wide radiator, even on the 6-cylinder cars. This thing right here is a fan shroud to keep your fingers away from the whirling blades. Kind of an interesting thing. It doesn't do anything for controlling airflow, but basically keeping your fingers away from the whirling blades. And the fan's even painted red to kind of catch your eye and keep you away from the spinning blades. This one has single horn. Dual horns were certainly an option. And speaking of dual things, this does have dual headlights, which were a $24 option over the single headlight. So yes, you paid extra for these dual headlights, $24 extra. Makes it worth, more modern looking vehicle. I like it. And again, all new front sheet metal on these things, the hood, the fenders, the bumper, all new for 64. And even the windshield was slightly curved, or more curved than it was in 63, so more of a modernized style on these things. We'll trade places here and take a peek at the instrument panel. This is an automatic car. Of course, the Borg-Warner Studebaker didn't make their own automatics, so they relied on Borg-Warner for their cast iron 2-speed automatics. Not a big performance unit, but again, very reliable. Rubber floor mats in this one, very utilitarian and useful. And see on the left-hand side of the dash, it says, sliding roof must be locked at all times when in motion. What that means is the sliding roof, which we'll get to in a second, must be closed. And interesting little detail, like you're going to forget that. But with that said, the sliding roof, we'll get to that as we go around to the back of the car. Now, the thing gives the Wagonaire, its name is the Wagonaire. This roof here can actually slide back to make room for tall objects, giraffes, palm trees, refrigerators, very useful. And even Matchbox got into the game right here. Now, this one, it does have car arthritis, doesn't want to open, but this one does open. There it is right there in action, 1/64 scale. And Corgi also made one of these. And kind of a cool little detail right here. And here it is in Motor Trend. This is January of 1963, all the new 63s, 64s, I should say. And here it is right inside of here. Test of the Studebaker Wagonaire. And right there, and that's the earlier body style. That was new for old for 63, 64, as we saw a second ago, has more of a squared off design, more modernized. And there it is right there in action. The roof slides, and very, very useful for a variety of things. Again, palm trees, giraffes, refrigerators. That's more likely what people are using it for. And the magazine ad, or the article, is very detailed, tells all about the volumes and the uses for it. There's even a little step ladder, this thing right here on the back, to help you get up and load things toward the roof, step on the little aluminum structure, and then onto the tailgate to load things up onto the roof. There's a guy, there is an action right there. And the roof does have a latch right there. That's the thing, you have to have latched when you go down the road according to the dashboard warning label. Now, there was a steel-topped wagon with non-sliding for a $100 credit if you didn't want to have the sliding roof. The one thing about these is they're pretty well known for leaks. Now, there are rubber tubes into the C-pillar, D-pillar on this thing. They come down inside of the roof, down to the back to drain water from here. So they usually get clogged with silt and stop working. So that was one of the problems with these cars. And again, the wagons had the taillights moved up like this for a higher vantage point, whereas the hardtops, et cetera, would have a lower mounting of the taillights. And around the back of this thing here is the back, and again, Wagonaire, spelled with an E, very stylized, Wagonaire, A-I-R-E. Very cool cars, really, in many ways. And I think there were a couple of cars more recently. Some GMC SUVs did have sliding roofs, I think in the 2000s, early 2000s, late 1990s, I think, sliding roofs on. But again, Studebaker was very ahead of the crowd with the sliding roof on the Wagonaire. If you want to learn more about this car, maybe buy it or the parts and pieces. Some parts of this thing are still very serviceable. I can reach out to Paul Crozier at paulcrozier at gmail.com. gmailvt.com if you want to learn about buying parts and pieces. The rear axle, it might be a twin traction. I don't see the TT logo, but it could be a twin traction. It's possible, you never know. But bits and pieces are still very serviceable. The rear glass is fine. It's flat, it's plate glass, it's not curved like the windshield, but again, every car here has some serviceable parts, so save them before they go into the shredder, and that's going to happen eventually, hopefully later than sooner. But anyway, with that said, thanks for watching the video. Subscribe to the Steve Banks YouTube channel, and we'll see you tomorrow for more Junkyard Crawl.